Some gambling news readers would certainly be familiar with dog sports, but before we start, could you summarize a bit about what you do for those who are not? And perhaps tell us a bit about yourself too.
Well, you mentioned I'm from Doc Sports. I've been there for almost 20 plus years. And what we provide over at Doc Sports is something that, I don't want to say unique since we've been around, the company's been around since the 1970s. We do the homework for you. So if you don't know who you like in the game, you can pick one of our outstanding handicappers or guys, and they can tell you what they researched and what they like in the game. So it gives us, I tell the people, we do the homework that you guys don't want to do when it comes to watching games. And it's a busy time. I mean, right now we're going into the Final Four on Saturday, both men's and women's Final Four. We got the NBA playoffs approaching, the NHL playoffs approaching, baseball has started. So people think, no more football, but there's still a busy time when you're looking at the industry of sports gambling.
So it is safe to say that the dog sports team is very busy right now. Is that correct?
That is correct. I mean, people don't think so. It's funny, after the Super Bowl, I always have people that go, "Oh, what are you going to do now?" I'm like, "What do you mean, what am I going to do now?" This is probably one of our busiest times when you're approaching the summer. Because like I said, baseball just threw their first pitch this week. So it's always something to look at, always something to gamble at, and always something to watch on TV.
Yeah. So that is correct. Some people really do seem to be underestimating the events in the sporting calendar after the Super Bowl. So let's talk about March Madness. The event has cemented itself as a global sporting and wagering phenomenon. And it's every year it's driving stellar viewership and betting activity. What do you believe makes March Madness so successful?
Because anybody can win. It's a tournament. Not like yes, football is a tournament as well, but you have the playoffs. This one, you have 60 plus teams trying to cut down the nets. And if you're hot one day, you can beat anybody in any given day when it comes to March Madness. You have the Cinderella stories that people always like. Granted, there's no Cinderella stories this year. There's all 4 number 1 seeds, but people still like it. They want to see the best games. And I always tell people the reason why March Madness gets so much betting action, because it's also spring break for these college kids who are going to Vegas, who are going to Atlantic City, or they're going to their favorite places to watch March Madness and college basketball games. And there's no school for them. So spring break is a big plus on why March Madness does a lot of outstanding betting handle. And then, of course, who doesn't fill out a bracket every year when it comes to March? There's bracket pools, there's bracket contests. So I just give, if you just mix it all into one pot, it makes March Madness so exciting. And I always say, just because anybody can beat anybody in any given night when it comes to the NCAA tournament.
Okay. Yes, so you're basically saying that the unpredictability of the event is what makes it so exciting.
No one has ever had a perfect bracket. I think I forgot what billionaire offers $1 million if someone fills out a perfect bracket, and so far no one has ever filled out a perfect bracket during March Madness.
Yeah, with so many teams, it's a tall order indeed. So the American Gaming Association predicts that there will be some serious basketball betting activity this year, and I assume that sports fans are going to need picks and predictions more than ever. Is this assumption correct? And has the dog sports team noticed any increase in traffic during March Madness in the weeks leading to the Final Four?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just because you have those conference tournaments before the NCAA tournament. So we probably start ramping up our business probably 2 to 3 weeks before the tournament starts, because you have conference tournaments and then people are on a bubble trying to make the NCAA tournament. And those games are usually televised all over the networks of ESPN, ESPN Plus, Fox Sports, and all these other networks. So yeah, I think before the heading into March Madness, that's when our business ramps up. And everyone, again, we have the Final Four, but you can't sleep on the ladies who also have their NCAA tournament, who've seen a lot of action coming in, women's NCAA bracket. So if you put 1 and 1 together, 2 makes a big number at the end of the day.
Yeah, indeed. And with a lot of teams and a lot of action in both leagues and a lot of fans across all the states, it's a recipe for record betting activity. So, what has been Doc's sports experience with March Madness 2025 so far? Have you perhaps noticed any curious trends, whether for the men's league or the women's league, that you'd wish to share with Gambling News readers?
I think probably the biggest notion was right when the tournament started. I think everyone just knew it was going to be a favorite tournament, that the betting favorites were going to win, and the betting favorites were going to win pretty easily. So if you're a sports book, you probably took a bath because all the bettors were winning. So anytime you have a favorite wins, and let's say the game goes over the total, usually the books are going to be asking for maybe a GoFundMe page at the end of the day. Because what I've heard, the books took a bath so far during the NCAA tournament. So I think what we've learned over at Doc Sports and pretty much everywhere, that the favorites have been dominating. The Dukes, the Houstons, the Florida Gators, who have been mentioned all season long. Duke with the best player in college basketball, Cooper Flagg, who's going to be the #1 draft pick. They're in it. So it just like shocks me that people are complaining, oh, I don't like to see 4 #1s in the Final Four. But at the same time, we're going to get to the best basketball games being played on Saturday, and we're going to get the best championship game being played on Monday. Same thing with the ladies. 3 out of the 4 teams are #1 teams, and that last one is a #2 seed. So we're going to see the best basketball being played in both Final Fours and both championship games because the best teams are still in it.
Yeah, certainly an exciting time for basketball fans. So, I understand that your team previously predicted that some $25 billion would be wagered on the Super Bowl. Do you perhaps have any similar predictions about the NCAA tournament? And maybe also, could you share more about your Super Bowl study?
Our Super Bowl study shows that everyone likes to bet the Super Bowl. And I think the reason why the Super Bowl is creme of the creme in any sporting world, I mean, it outdoes March Madness, it outdoes the World Series. It's pretty much king when it comes to betting because there's so many different ways to bet the Super Bowl. You're not just betting the game. You can bet how many touchdown passes would a quarterback throw, how many commercials will have Budweiser in it. There's so many different options. I mean, just alone that I help out on Sportsbook, there was 4,500 different ways to bet the Super Bowl. So if you add that up, all the money that's coming in on one game, you're going to have a big volume. That's why I think you're going to see the Super Bowl betting volume continue to go up. And don't forget, California is really close to approving sports gambling. So is the state of Florida. They may have another casino that's going to be able to do that. And if Texas ever rolls in and approves sports gambling, we're just going to see these numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger because some of these big states are closer to adding sports betting. So I think that's why Super Bowl is the creme of the creme. It's not March Madness. You are busier than the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl is only one game. March Madness, you have games after games after games, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's just games from 9 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. So the handle is much different because you have a smaller handle, but you have more games. Super Bowl, you'll have guys betting 6 figures on the Super Bowl like it's a drop in the hat. So handle bet-wise, Super Bowl will outdo any other event. Ticket written and public view of it, it's March Madness just because you have so many games in a small time.
And do you have any similar predictions about March Madness, about the handle? And do you have any similar predictions about March Madness, about the handle? Or
I would say the handle is probably going to be upper than last year because the bettors have more money. The bettors have been really successful so far this tournament. So they're probably going to bet a little bit more on the Final Four and the championship game because the bettors have been winning. They have more money in their pockets. They're not telling their wives that they're won. They're keeping their monies to themselves and betting more. So I think the handle will probably be upwards than last year. And especially if, let's say, Duke makes it to the national championship because everyone knows who Duke is. Everyone knows who the best player in college basketball. And if they have to play Florida, who everyone knows Florida's basketball team all season long, I think the handle for the championship game is probably going to be really, really high. So I expect big numbers just because of the names that are left in the tournament and how much money the bettors won in this NCAA tournament.
Yeah, as I said, certainly an exciting time to be a fan, but perhaps not so much for sports books.
No, they're not happy right now.
So, speaking of the top 4, actually, let's take a look back. Can you say a few words about the betting activity so far? While the favorites did end in the four top places, have fans successfully predicted an upset or did at any point of the tournament and an underdog prove confident bettors wrong about the game? And most importantly, was there an outcome that surprised the dog sports team?
And there's really no surprise because a lot of our people over at Doc Sports had really good NCAA tournaments, just like I mentioned before. Like everyone else who had really good tournaments. I think the biggest surprise probably in this tournament was the school of McNeese State. And I think the only reason why bettors won on that was because the head coach used to be the head coach of LSU, who had success in the NCAA tournament. So he had a lot of transfer people in there, a lot of kids that were in bigger schools that went to his school instead. So I think that was the only big sleeper this year was McNeese State. But like I said, we mentioned this before, it was just chalk, as I like to say, chalk the whole time the tournament. The number ones were not just winning pretty easily, winning by double digits. So if you look at, I think that's why so many cappers at Doc Sports and so many public bettors had it, because it was just domination from the top guys.
So now let's return to the top four for a second. First for the men's league. So can you say a few words about the remaining competitors and the current favorites to Gambling News readers and listeners?
Are you talking about the betting our competitors in our industry, or are you just talking in general?
I'm talking about the, how do I put it? In general, basically.
Well, here at Doc Sports, we not only just do, like I said, college basketball, but we'd also do betting prop bets, like over under how many points is a team going to score, not just the game itself. Most competitors and most books don't even offer that kind of stuff. So we try to think outside the box, and we try to think, okay, if the viewer's going to sit down and watch it, maybe they don't like the game itself. Maybe they don't like Duke and Houston, but they love this Cooper Flag kid, where you can bet over under how many rebounds is he going to have in this game? How many points is he going to score at this game? So I think we try to dig a little bit deeper when we release games over at Doc Sports. That's why I always tell people, that's why we did a huge study on WNBA and women's sports, because that's really popular right now. We have one big name left in women's basketball, and she plays for UConn. That's Paige Beckers, who's probably going to be one of the top picks in the WNBA. She went to a historic school in UConn who has banners all over the place. We try to dive into that. We try to teach the betting public. Yeah, yes, I know betting is mostly a man's sports, but don't forget about the ladies. The ladies can bet. You can bet on their soccer team. You can bet on WNBA. You can bet on women's college basketball. And I think that's why women's sports and women in general betting in sports is on the rise year after year. And I only see it climbing upwards just because of the TV contracts that ESPN and Fox. You can watch women's professional soccer on ESPN. You can watch women's basketball, women's softball on ESPN. I think the way we portray women, and I think that here at Doc Sports, we have guys that dissect on it. We have guys that look at that and release plays to the public that, hey, we're going to do the homework for you, women's sports. Now come over here and watch it.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to talk about, women's sports. I have a feeling that a few years ago there was not so much interest in betting on women's sports. As you know, betting in general is very often in common culture associated with men, as it's considered more male hobby, let's put it that way. But in the past few years, there's been the tides have begun to change, let's put it that way. And whereas men's sports used to dominate the betting sector, there's quite some interest in women's sports right now, just as you mentioned. What do you think is driving this change? Is it perhaps a thirst for more varied betting markets, or perhaps even cultural shifts, changes in perception, or something else entirely?
I think TV viewership. If people are going to bet something that they can watch on TV, they're not going to bet on something where you have to refresh your phone every 5 minutes to get an updated score. I think that has a big thing to it. Another one, everyone think Caitlin Clark, from the girl that went to Iowa, now's in the WNBA. They think she's the big reason that people bet on women's sports, and she's the catalyst of what's happening in women's sports. No, it was the women's soccer team, year after year, winning the gold, winning World Cup. We when I worked in sports books in Vegas, we had odds on all that, and people would bet that because I remember the sports books would be packed when USA ladies were on TV playing soccer. They were betting it because they were so dominant. They were winning tournament after tournament after tournament. I say that was when it started. You started seeing more women bet sports. So you're seeing more women bet on U.S. ladies sports, betting the WNBA, betting soccer with the ladies. And then here comes a girl from Iowa, Caitlin Clark. She was pretty much the icing on the cake. Oh, there was already interest. Now she baked the cake and put the icing on the cake. She just blew up, and people always wanted to bet everything with her. So then now that she's in the WNBA, it puts so much interest on betting in the WNBA with her and Angel Reese. And I already told you, we're going to have a girl named Paige Beckers, who's probably going to be the number one draft pick in this year's WNBA, going to the Dallas Wings. She's going to make some more oomph into the sport. Next year, we'll have a girl from USC named Juju Watkins, a girl from UCLA, the center. Her name is Britt, her last name. She's going to be a dominant force. So I think all these stuff that the WNBA and college basketball are doing is the big reason why we're seeing more women and more men betting on sports. And I'm not even talking about Oklahoma softball, who just wins championship after championship after champion year after year. A lot of money being bet on women's softball as well.
Yeah, in general, women's sports are becoming more popular, and perhaps while perhaps it is still a far shot from how dominant certain male sports are, it is definitely refreshing to see this change. Do you believe that this popularity of women's basketball, of women's soccer, women's softball, etc., is going to drive perhaps more broadcasts, more general investments in the women's sports sector?
Oh, I believe so. I think we're just going to see a continued rise in women's sports betting. So, like I said, with the WNBA, they have names. I mean, no one watched the NBA when until Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird came in. The NBA was a losing product. Now the WNBA has names coming into their league where you can promote them, where you can put them on commercials, and girls are going to buy jerseys, and more women are going to want to bet, play sports, play soccer, play WNBA. I think the rise of women's sports betting is just going to continue to climb. It's not going to surpass men, but I think we're constantly going to see more women betting on sports, and we're going to see more options on how you can bet women's sports.
Yeah, it is some very curious developments. And you mentioned that not only are women's sports more popular, but more women are betting on sports. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
So, as I mentioned a bit earlier, sports betting used to be associated with men. It was a male-dominated pastime. And not only are women's sports more popular right now, but there are also more female bettors. And I wish to ask, do you believe that the sector as a whole is becoming more inclusive?
I would say so. I think social media had a lot to do with the rise female bettors out there, not just betting on women's sports, but just betting in general. We see TV, we see their experts mostly are their lead expert is mostly a lady, which no, I mean, I have no frown on that. If that's going to help your ratings, if that's going to help your product, and I'll go for it. I'm not going to tell you how to run your business, but I think that has a lot to do with it, with social media presence and how it's portrayed. But there's some of the smartest people I know in the industry are females. So I'm not going to say, oh, they're the worst gamblers or the worst predictors. There's a couple of girls that I know that's their job. Their job is just betting on sports. One of them used to be a professional poker player, and now she doesn't even play poker anymore. She just bets sports 365 days a year. So yeah, if you do your homework and if you are legitimate, it's in any workplace. If you do your homework and it's constantly research and study and stuff like that, no matter what job you do, you can be successful. It's no different. Sports gambling is the same.
Yeah, I also agree with that line of thought. And I wish to expand this topic a little bit because traditionally there have been some. There have always been female bettors and gamblers, but in the past it was more prevalent in certain betting spaces or circles and communities that used to be more welcoming to women, and that resulted in a sort of separation between male bettors and female bettors. Do you believe that this will remain the case, or do you think that the future of sports betting is unisex?
No, I think the men are welcoming the women in the industry because if you can win, they want to know what you like. I can guarantee you, if I know a lady that's red hot in football, or she's on a complete baseball run, has won 10 straight. I don't care, male, female, short, tall, fat, skinny. I'm going to text her and say, "Hey, who do you like today?" So I think it's all about the mighty Benjamin when it comes to sports betting. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're red hot and you can put extra money in someone's pocket, they really don't care what you look like, who you sound like. It's all about who do you like today, and can you put some extra money in my pocket? So I don't think back in the day, yes, I would say back in the early 60s and 70s, yes, probably frowned upon. But now that it's so open, I mean, I've been in this industry for almost 30 years. I remember back in the day when I was doing medias on TV and radio, there were certain words I couldn't say. I couldn't say betting favorite. I couldn't say point spread because it wasn't legal here in the United States. It was only legal offshore and stuff like that. So it was pretty much voodoo mentioning point spreads and -7 during football games. Now it's common. You hear it everywhere. Who's the favorite in this game? Who do you like in this game? It's pretty much a first language now here in the States. So maybe back in the day, I think some of the old men who hung out at horse racing tracks and stuff like that, they didn't want to see a woman betting horses. But now it's just so wide open. If you're a red hot handicapper, they're gonna want to know who you like.
Yeah, I generally agree with that, and that's a very good mindset. As long as someone knows their stuff, it doesn't matter who they are. So, Raphael, can we discuss the regulatory landscape a bit? Since America legalized sports betting a few years ago, the popularity of sports wagering has skyrocketed. And there are now dozens of states that have some form of legal betting, be it traditional betting or mobile online betting or both. So the popularity of sporting calendar highlights such as the Super Bowl and March Madness certainly demonstrates the benefits of regulated betting. And as you talked a bit about that earlier, but as more states are eyeing legislative efforts to regulate sports betting, could I ask you which state do you believe would be the next one to legalize wagering on sports?
Ooh, wow, that's probably the $1,000,000 question. I always have people asking me to different states, always ask me what's the next state that's going to be on it. I mean, I'm totally blown away.
Question.
I'm totally blown away that Texas has not signed yet. I think California will probably want to be one of the, I don't want to say last states to approve it just because they have so many Indian land there and so many Native Americans that own land there that want sports gambling. So I think that's a big hurdle, just like Florida. I think that's why there's only one place in the state of Florida, and that's the Hard Rock that's owned by Indian Native Americans. I think that's why you can't bet fully in the states on it. But I would say like I said, I'm still blown away. But I would say like maybe Georgia will probably be close. on that list. There's no way if I had to say, Utah would probably be the last state uh, on there, but I would think both Carolinas, North Carolina is really close to getting it full. They're almost at that threshold of, okay, we crossed the finish line. I would say both Carolinas, North Carolina and South Carolina, will be out there. But other than that, it's like there's so much. The states that are left have so much litigation. I think it's going to be really, really hard to see who's going to be it, and who's not going to. So, but I would be shocked if Texas is not the next state in the next 5 years. I think Texas will go before California.
Yeah, there have been some serious efforts to legalize not only sports betting but also casino resorts in Texas as well. And this even, if I remember correctly, became a point of controversy a few years ago because there were some really aggressive efforts trying to make it happen to tap this untapped potential. Uh, Speaking of sports betting and regulation, unfortunately, we can all agree that when excessive sports betting can have certain adverse effects too. I mean, every day we hear people talking about the dangers of excessive gaming, but that's that's not the only challenge. There are some challenges like the black market, offshore competitors, and other associated issues. But what I believe is that to sports fans, maybe the most serious issues lie elsewhere in match fixing and harassment. What do you think can be done to keep the regulated market clean and healthy?
I mean, I think a lot has to do with the books itself. I mean, some of them don't care about who's betting. They want to know how much you're betting and do they need that bet. I mean, that's why I always, when I ran sports books in Vegas, we always had a max bet and a minimum bet, and I would get in trouble with the presidents all the time because. Example, okay, we have a max bet on $1,000 on this game. Well, we have a guy that just lost $1 million playing blackjack, and now he wants to bet the game, but he wants to put $1 million. And I would say, oh, sorry, you can only bet $1,000. That's our max bet. Who do you think's on the phone in 2 seconds? The president of the company, the president of the casino. Give this guy $1 million. They don't care about what the bet the results at the end that could really crush that department. They're just trying to satisfy that big whale that not only plays blackjack but also plays video poker and plays baccarat and all that. I think a lot of it has to do with the companies itself. They need to learn how to, okay, a max bet is a max bet. The reason why they get in trouble is because they don't see all these illegal bets coming in because they're just looking at handle and not doing the research. Oh, okay, why is this game being bet like this? They're just saying, ooh, we're getting all this handle coming in, but we're going to have a really good day, win, lose, or draw. All this money is coming when they're not doing their homework when it comes to that. When it comes to offshore gaming is always going to be there. Just like I always tell people, oh, but what about people who have problem addiction for gambling? Well, we still go to the grocery store and you can buy cigarettes and alcohol. There's people still have problems with drinking and people still are dying from smoking. So I know there's addiction for gambling. I understand that, and it's all about money management and knowing yourself. But don't tell me about, oh, what about the kids when they can get drunk every day at college and smoke every day, and you can go to the grocery store to do that. At least in sports gambling, you have to sign up. You have to put a credit card. You have to get approved for a limit. When a 21-year-old kid can just go to the store with his mom and dad's credit card and buy as much alcohol as possible. At least when you sign up for a sports book, there's some kind of steps that you have to do. But I'm tired of people who say, oh, but what about the global books? They're not sanctioned. They're not going anywhere. I mean, global books have been around forever. They're not going anywhere. So I would say that's pretty much beating a dead horse. I think look inside your own house before you look in someone else's house. I think the DraftKings and FanDuels, they need to look at more risk management than just accepting a bet just because, ooh, this guy lost $1 million in football and now he wants to bet a women's basketball game, we're going to give him the same dollar amount on a women's basketball just because he lost $1 million in the NFL. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially with the points you made about regulation and how people sometimes ignore other other addictive products that are available and are just instead focus all of their anger on betting and gaming. And about the other things I mentioned, which are sometimes associated with both sports betting and sports, which is one of them is match fixing, as I mentioned. Do you think that better technology would make it easier to identify, um, how do I put it, suspicious patterns? There is already technology like that being used, but it's still not fail-proof. Do you think that all of these ongoing advancements in artificial intelligence and technology and mathematical models are going to improve the rates in which fraud is tackled?
I think there is, but there's always going to be an issue, no matter how much AI, how much technology you have. Because look at overseas in England and you're in Ireland and Australia, who have had gambling way before we had it legalized here. They've always had problems with soccer. Everyone doesn't remember. Everyone thinks that maybe football is the most sport that has maybe rules that are broken or mass fixes. No, the biggest sport is tennis. Tennis has the most match fixes, and it's not even here in the United States. So I think we just need to be prepared and be aware more than finger point if something does happen. These kids that are in college or baseball players, most of these guys who get in trouble, they're not even from sports books. They're either from illegal bookies or someone say, hey, you want to make a quick $1,000? If you can tell a kid he can make a quick $1,000, most likely that kid's going to take it. I think we just need to be more prepared and more aware, not just like try to fix it, because it's not going to, you cannot fix what goes on in someone's mind. It doesn't matter how much AI you have, how much technology you have. I think you just need to be aware of it first, because there's always going to be max fixing. We've seen it every year overseas in Europe, in Russia, and stuff like that. So I always tell people, if you want to dig deep into it, look at all the max fixing they have in Europe and tennis matches across sea, and see how much they have the issue, and it'll make our issue look very, very small here in the States.
Yeah, I understand that. And the other thing also I mentioned, the harassments. Since the advent of sports betting in America, unfortunately, there have been some cases where angry bettors would harass sports players if they don't perform well enough, and if bettors lose their bets because of a player. And this has become something of a hot topic, especially when college sports are concerned. NCAA President Charlie Baker recently proposed eliminating college player prop bets, and some states have been considering it. What are your thoughts? What are Doc Sports' thoughts on the matter? Do you believe that this would solve the issue, or that it will solve nothing?
The only way this issue is going to be solved is we get rid of social media. Because even if you take away prop betting, what if a kid misses a free throw and loses the game? He's still going to get harassed, even though there was no prop bets on him, but he missed a free throw, or a kicker missed a kick in football. I think the main reason why it's so bad is because of one thing and one thing only: social media. We're a 365-day news place here now in the States. We didn't have I've never went to a game back in the 80s and 90s yelling at a baseball player because he dropped the ball because they had money on it, because there was no social media. And if I screamed from the stands, he probably didn't hear me, because there's thousands of people in the stands. Now you can just log on to X, Facebook, whatever, Instagram, whatever you want, and just start bashing a guy or just because he missed a free throw. And it's not just sports. If you see a bad movie, what's the first thing people do? They go online. This is the world's worst movie. This actor did this. Oh, I tried this new restaurant. This restaurant stunk. It's not just sports. It's just in general how we live our lives now. We live in a life of 365-day news media. Everyone's a news critic. Everyone can go online and say, you know what, this restaurant sucked. This NBA player missed a layup. This girl missed a free throw. It's not just sports. I know NCAA wants to turn it into, oh, it's only happening to them. No, it's not. It's not happening. Ask LeBron James how many times he gets harassed every time he steps on the court, or how many times Aaron Judge gets harassed every time he strikes out in baseball. The NCAA is just trying to pinpoint it. Oh, it's the kids. These are kids. No, it's not. The kids are probably the worst. I can guarantee you that kid is probably doing the same thing if he watches a movie or goes to a restaurant or does something. He's probably doing the same thing. So I understand it's horrible. I feel bad for these kids and these college ladies who get harassed because they did something wrong in a game. I've never done it. I never will. But this is the life we live here in 2025, April 3rd. We're a 365 days news media. If something happens today in a gaming event, someone's gonna tweet it. Someone's gonna post it. This guy stinks. I want my money back. I want a refund because he struck out or he got hurt. That's the life that we live in. So NCAA banning prop bets is not going to fix the issue. It's going to make a worse issue because now all the U.S. bettors are going to go over to overseas and global bookmakers. They're going to bet there because they're not going to change their ways. They're going to say, hey, U.S. bettors, we have more college prop bets here. Why don't you bring your money here?
That was what I was about to say. That even if it's banned, there are many players who just find a way, and then money will go to unregulated companies that do not pay taxes in the US, and
that's why global books will never. That's why global books will never go away.
Yeah, and it would also create another layer to this problem because now also there will be more money leaking to foreign companies. Okay, and finally. Is there something else you'd like to say, or is there something you believe that we might have glossed over? And could you perhaps share an interesting development in sports, March Madness, and maybe a prediction with Gambling News readers?
Well, I think I thought defense was going to be the big key of March Madness. There were so many good offensive teams, but I thought defense was going to win it. And that's why I always say defense wins championship. That's why I predicted. I didn't fill out a bracket. I probably haven't filled out a bracket in 20 plus years. I know it's shocking. I know I'm in the industry, but I look at it totally different. I don't look at who's team A going to play the next game. I'm looking, okay, what's the point spread going to be the next game? I'm not looking, so I look at it totally different. So I thought defense was going to be the big key. That's why I thought Houston was going to cut down the nets. You would get really good value when the tournament started. You can get close to almost 10-1 odds on Houston because all the money was on SEC teams and Duke. So a lot of money was on it. So no one was really. I thought Houston was not a sleeper because they've been so good in the last couple of years, but they're not a name brand. No one knows Houston basketball. We all know Duke basketball and the SEC and Big Ten basketball. So I thought that one. So them being still in it and still being disrespected, I think that's kind of shocking what I've seen. We've seen a lot of teams being disrespected just because they're not in the SEC or they're not Duke. So I think that one's probably a little bit more shocking for me. And I still think you can get really good value on Houston for the Final Four and even to win it all if they can beat Duke. So I think that's something you might want to look at. Something I always want to tell people, just because there's a game on TV does not mean you need to bet it. If you don't like this Final Four game, if you think that but there's no value on these two teams or you don't have a feel, just because it's on TV does not mean you need to put money on it. Just sit back and enjoy it. It's the Final Four. You get to watch two games on Saturday. Tell the wife, here's some extra money, go shopping. You can sit around and watch basketball for two really good games. You don't have to put action on every game that's playing during March Madness. I tell people that all the time. Just like on the first day on Thursdays, for round one on Thursday, I tell people you don't have to put all your bankroll on Thursday because you know what? There's Friday games, Saturday games, Sundays. Sports betting is it's not a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. You just run slow, pace yourself. Money management. If you like a game, play it. If you don't like a game, sit back and watch it. Research that game. You might want to play that team the next time they play. But just because there's a game on TV does not mean you need to bet that game.
Yeah, that's a really good mindset to have, to just enjoy sports, even if one does not like the teams that are currently playing or is not interested in betting on the action that is going on right now. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, Raphael. Okay, so it was very nice to have you,
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
and I wish Dog Sports a very successful end to the March Madness season.
Thank you, and we're hoping to have a profitable Final
Yeah.
Four. And like I said, baseball is here, and in a blink of an eye, the NFL will be here.
Yeah, so it will be a busy calendar for both fans, for the dog sports team, and for all the companies involved in the industry. Okay, so thank you for taking your time to talk with Gambling News.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. And anytime you need anything, you got my information. Would love to jump on again if you need anything special.
Yes. Okay, so thank you and goodbye.